Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Rolling Conversations. What a moment in time it is for sport. Some wonderful sport on TV at the moment. We hope you've been loving the Olympics and, of course, not long until the Paralympics as well in Tokyo. So been a wonderful day of sports watching, and we're going to be we're having conversation this afternoon about coaching. And I'm really thrilled to welcome at this stage, two of our coaches. We have another coach possibly joining us a bit later on. But from our wheelchair basketball community, an NSWIS coach, a Paralympian gold medalist, Janna Mizens. Welcome, Janna, to Rolling Conversations.
Thanks, Nick. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's really good to have you. And Dawesy, Andrew Dawes, OAM. I don't know if I have to say Mr. Dawes or how that works, but again, in terms of, wheelchair track and road coaches, known the world over, some superstars in your stable over many, many years, and a much-loved member of our community. So welcome, Dawesy.
Thanks, Mick. You must have been doing your research. Not many people know about that, so well done.
Yeah, all over that. Don't worry about it. Hey, I'm interested in the transition between being an athlete and being a coach. And I wonder, because I don't know your sporting background, Dawesy, and we're going to get to that. But Janna, if we start with you obviously as a Paralympian for the US in wheelchair basketball and a gold medal winner, did you think during your playing career you would get into coaching? Was that something you had in your mind?
Not exactly. I did, while I was at university, I did do some research in Kenya looking at constraints for athletes with disability. And I found a lot, so on the research side of it, that technical components of the game is lacking, and that was a big constraint for athletes participating in sports. And so I did do educational side of it, not per se a coach and being a coach, but getting the technical aspect out there. I was quite intrigued how if we deliver that information globally, how possibly that would add more coaches, more athletes, et cetera, from a higher point, but not really to coach myself.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, and also through being at the University of Illinois, or even in high school, a big thing of the coaches that I've looked up to is about coaching at camps. So you learn so much more when you teach other people. So even from a high school, even able-bodied, we were coaching the young kids, and then at university, bring all the kids across America and play wheelchair basketball. People come around the world that you coach and you learn. But that's more from a coach camp perspective, just so that I, as an athlete, could develop further.
Yeah, great. Hey, Dawesy, so before we get on to your, being a coach, what was your sport growing up? What did you play?
Yeah, I played a bit of everything. Played rugby league from 8 years of age till about 22 years of age. That was my major sport. Definitely not at any high level. Played out in the bush, Orange Sims, for many years. Then played for Charles Sturt University, and then a few years in Sydney when I first moved down there. But just a lover of all sports, and just one of those kids that just wanted to do sport all the time.
And did you grow up with any coaches that you can recall? Anyone have an influence on you in terms of your style now as a coach?
No, not really. I often look back at my childhood and growing up, and I had lots of good people that coached me, but I really feel, and that's why I really feel that regional, this is going back in the 70s and 80s, of course, but kids in the region probably missed out on opportunities. I'm sure there was lots of talented kids out there, but back in those days there wasn't that support system. Like, I didn't even see a synthetic athletics track till I was 25 years of age, and now I train on one every day with athletes. So just things like that. I had a lot of good people that were coaching, but never any real, I never got to that level really, I suppose, where I had standout coaches that had an influence on me.
Janna, anyone for you in your sport? Did you get, is there a coach or someone that stands out for you on the way through your playing days?
Yeah, I mean, I had some great coaches at high school. We were a very strong sports school. And then from a wheelchair basketball perspective, I mean, Coach Fogley from Canada was, just in terms of his understanding, was top notch.
Yeah, great. And how do you describe yourself as a coach then, Janna? Like perhaps how would the players describe you now? Have you found your style?
Oh, that's a great question. I guess it's interesting from a player's perspective in terms of really, I'm somebody who big pictures, this is where we're going, very fine detail, quite organized, really explain the whys and always have a game theory or a purpose for what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So very, I guess, analytical, thoughtful, holistic component of looking at athletes from a holistic perspective, off court, on court side of it. But again, I am still kind of at the stretching my legs at the early stages of my court side experience.
What about you, Dawes? You've coached some of the superstars of wheelchair track and road around the world, and in fact, Paralympic superstars in Kurt Fearnley, Louise Savage, your wife, Christy, of course, and then some of the wonderful juniors that are now emerging in wheelchair sport as well. What do you reckon they'd say about you? We got Dawesy there. He might have frozen for a bit. Oh, that's all right. He's just dropped out for a second. So we'll come back to that, Janna. But we'll just check in on Dawesy about that. So, Janna, I was wondering, you're now coaching the Gliders, or assistant coach of the Gliders, which is the women's wheelchair basketball team going to Tokyo. And your husband, Grant, is the assistant coach on the Rollers, which is the men's equivalent. Do you have a bet on as to who finishes higher at the Paralympics in Tokyo?
I think we're both rooting for Australia with that. The Rollers have been on top, not on top, but they've been a medal contingent for a while. And the Gliders are really just starting. Unfortunately, in 2016, they didn't qualify. So they're quite excited to really be the underdogs at this game and to show the world where they can compete. So hopefully they'll surprise and we'll do some great work. But also the Rollers do have the weight on their shoulders that they're expected to perform at the games.
Yeah, it'd be fascinating to watch. Dawesy, we got you loud and clear?
Yeah, got me back. I'm not sure what happened then. I just lost all transmission.
That's all right. We got you back.
Yep.
And we're just asking you about, in terms of the plethora of people you've coached throughout your career, Kurt Fearnley, Louise Savage, your wife, Christy, and plenty of juniors. What do you think they'd say about you? How would they describe you as a coach?
Yeah, I think they'd say I was pretty, passionate and, very, I suppose, willing to do anything to get them into a position to be a better athlete. Work hard, obviously pretty relaxed. I've probably got more relaxed now than I was maybe 20 years ago, but I remember a coach saying to me once, another track and field coach saying, the best thing, which was a compliment I found at the time, he said, the best thing that I can see about you is that your demeanour is the same after a win or a loss. Whether your athletes have won or have not done so well, your reaction and your interaction with them is similar. So I think that's I always remember them saying that and didn't realise I wasn't doing it on purpose, but tried to lead that way, moving forward. So, and always never stop learning. Like I often say, the athletes have taught me just as much as I've ever taught them. That's the main thing. They're the ones that are good at their trade. I've never raced a wheelchair in a marathon or anything like that. So it's always been a 50-50 relationship where, I can help them in the bits that they need help in, and I just soak in all the information that I get from dealing with them on a daily basis.
Yeah, indeed. Janna, we were talking earlier, just before we went on air, about, now you're a Melbourne Storm supporter, which, again, I didn't know that prior to inviting you on, but nonetheless, we were talking about Craig Bellamy, who's another extraordinary coach, and what a legacy he's created down there. Is he someone that you've admired from a coaching point of view? And are there any others, maybe not so much in your sport, but broader from a coaching point of view?
Yeah, I have. Just his mind in terms of the game. He's top with on the rugby league. From other coaches that I admire, I think it's you're right in terms of Jersey just saying that demeanor, and really, those coaches on the side that are able to stay solid, and the whole idea that whatever happens today, the sun's still going to shine tomorrow. Those are really the part as an athlete. You go out there, give it your best. It's time to dance and show. But then when it's over, got to reflect and move on and go with it, and try again the next day or celebrate and then move on. So, yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, nobody's coming to my mind right now, but it's just more. It's about those non-verbals. It's the ones that are out there in terms of how they're standing, the things that their emotions and how they're in check, and to be able to keep supporting their athletes.
And do you find, Janna, that you would like to have been coached? To put it in another way, would you do well under your own coaching style?
Yeah, I think I do, and I guess it's my intuition or gut. I can feel a room, and I'm not somebody who does well under yelling or different mind games like that. I'm like, tell me what you want, let's do it. And so I think that clarity is really important to me, as that's how I performed, and I like to see that. And so when that does stay calm, because right, when you're an athlete and it's like a parent, if the parent's going crazy, the kid's going to go crazy. But if you're that rock and solid, you got this, gentle reminders, what our focus is, allows you to refocus and get on with it. So I guess that's it. You find, I'm fortunate that I had some great coaches, and I like to just assimilate what I learned from them.
Yeah, nice. Dawes, same question for you about just sort of coaches that you might admire in different sports. But before we do that, one of the great traits, I think, of the great coaches is good judgment. And you've got that, certainly. However, you are a Manly supporter. So could you try and explain that first, please?
Well, why I'm a Manly supporter? Well, I grew up in the 70s, and that was a pretty golden era for the Sea Eagles, and it was actually how I became a Sea Eagle supporter was that back in about 1974, I think I was a 5 or 6 year old impressionable little fella, and Manly came out to Orange and played Western Division in a MCO Cup game, and I think it snowed, and it was my first sign of watching Bobby Fulton and Graham Eady and those guys, and my brother, who's 5 years older than me, he was already a Manly supporter, so it was just a natural progression. So it's just those, those instances that you're exposed to as a young person, and it just stuck with me, and that's why it's so important for us as coaches or athletes. They can have such an impact on young kids, and you can get them into your sport for life.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, same question, therefore, about other coaches. Do you have inspiration or learnings from different sports and different coaches? Is there anyone that you follow or you admire?
Yeah, I do. Like coming into wheelchair racing, I came in, at about 8 years before the Sydney Paralympics, and there wasn't a hell of a lot of, coaches at all in Australia or even in the world. There was no textbook. So there was a lady by the name of Jenny Banks who's still involved in Great Britain. She's an Aussie, but she's involved in the Great Britain side of things. I really soaked up lots of information from her, but I just also had to look outside the square, and I worked. I watched Gary Sutton from the cycling side of things, and I looked at some of our rowing coaches at NSWES, and just even our sports science people. With Kenneth Graham was a great help at his time at NSWES. And then, as I said before, the athletes. So I just love watching sports. Brian Goorjian's another one. He's a remarkable athlete with so much success. So even I don't know him personally, but you just watch him and listen to his interviews, and you just gain so much knowledge from exposing yourself to those great coaches.
So, Jenny, your team, the wheelchair basketballers, the Gliders, will be going to Tokyo, and it's only on in a few weeks. So can you give us a sense of, for those of us not as familiar with the team, who should we keep an eye out for within the team in particular? Is there, a few players that everyone watching along for Rolling Conversations can follow in Tokyo?
Yeah, so I think that you have, Amber Merritt from WA. She's one of our seniors who's been there before. We got from New South Wales, Georgia Maroon Cook, and very excited for Jess Kroniak, who's she'll be fiery out there, very excited for her energy that she'll come off the bench with. And then I guess that with the Gliders, that it's a team stuff. So you got a few from Queensland, Hannah Dott, who's spent some time here at New South Wales, and Ella Subject. So it's just there's going to be a number of girls to watch out for, but I think it's collectively as the team that they're going to be able to keep bringing more players off the bench to really keep the energy up high. So yeah, there's going to be a few of them out there. Very excited to opening game. I think it's the 25th of August. So yeah, very excited to see them in action.
Yeah, it'd be great. Same for you, Dawesy. Who do we keep? I mean, you know, just so many stars in your stables. We've almost got to go one by one. But your wife, of course, Christy, going to her 7th Paralympics, which is an amazing achievement in of itself. And at the other end of the spectrum, you've got Luke Bailey going to his first Paralympics. What an exciting stable you've got over there in Tokyo in a few weeks. Yeah,
it is exciting, and you start to get those butterflies. And I actually asked Luke this morning. I said, you know, you're getting excited, and he goes, yeah, I'm actually getting a bit nervous. And I said, oh, well, you know, that's good. Nervous energy's good energy at this stage, so just keep it under control. But yeah, Luke's at his first games, and to be honest, to be honest, the COVID situation probably helped Luke that extra 12 months preparation. Like he was on the cusp of selection, and just that extra 12 months of training's really put him into a position where he can can make the final, and anything can happen from there. And then obviously Reid McCracken as well, this is his 3rd games. He's been silver at the previous 2, so we're striving to get in the middle of the podium there.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier, you know, a couple of the superstars of wheelchair sport have been in your stable, Dawesy. Do you want to dish some dirt on Louise or Kurt while we've got you? What were they like to coach? You know, we see the public face of Kurt and Louise, and of course they're incredible members of our community and still give enormous amounts. I mean, to the juniors, Louise is there every Saturday morning bringing this fine young group of wheelchair track and road racers along. But have you got any insight around Louise? You know, maybe the question is, have you got any sense of why she was so successful?
Yeah, it's just I often get asked that, and it's pretty simple. She just had an extraordinary will to win. Like, she was so driven, and just had so much. I suppose, you know, all athletes that get to that level obviously have, you know, a certain high amount of physical ability, but athletes like Louise and then Kurt followed her on. They just had this inner strength that, you know, you'd nearly have to kill them before you could beat them. You know, they were just that strong mentally that even when they weren't physically at their best, they could still pull something out of the hat, and just strong-willed people who were always going to succeed.
Yeah, great. And please send through your questions for Dawesy and for Janna, and we'll put them to them. Janna, have you got any examples of that? I mean, who were the superstars of your sport that you played with that you admired?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're coming off of we had some top athletes, Christina Rip and Stephanie Wheeler for Schwab now. And they're now in the USA leading up university programs. So they're giving back in top programs around the world where different athletes are going. So it was great that a number of the athletes that, you know, I don't think we all set out to be coaches, but it's just that we got stuck in the sport and we just love it so much and giving it back to the next generation, kind of that paying forward. So there's Stephanie Wheeler and Christina Schwab, who she's actually the assistant coach on the men's side this coming into Tokyo. So watch out for them.
Yeah, great. So Larissa asked you. Sorry, Dawes. Go ahead.
Yeah, she was quite a good wheelchair racer too.
She was. Yeah, she was on the Boston as well.
Yeah, marathons, and I think she even might have raced it at a couple of world championships and Paralympics as well. So
yeah, she took the break off in 2012 in London and raced, and then came back to basketball after 2004. We were together 2008. So yeah, top athlete, very close to Louise.
I was just going to ask you Larissa's question in a second. We do have Freddie in the background there. So Freddie, give us a thumbs up when you're ready to join us and we'll bring you into the stream. All right, you ready to go? Here we go.
Yeah.
G'day, Freddie. Welcome to Rolling Conversations.
G'day.
It's nice to have you here. So Andrew Dawes alongside you there. Dawesy is one of the great wheelchair track and road coaches from around the world, an Australian out of Newcastle, and Janna Mizens, who's the N-Swiss wheelchair basketball coach and a gold medal Paralympian herself. So it's nice to have you amongst these guys.
Awesome.
Hi, Freddie.
Awesome.
Freddie, look, it's a good crew. We were talking earlier just about coaches that we admired, and in fact, Janna revealed she's a Melbourne Storm fan, which obviously dulled the conversation a little bit. But was talking about Craig Bellamy, and we spoke about other coaches. Are there coaches that you admire in different sports that you follow?
Well, I think these days I do so much rugby league. I don't get much time to really study other games. I watch other games and I talk to some other coaches, but I think any time where you can get consistent excellence, you know that there's someone good behind the direction of what the players or the people are doing who perform. So I think, I think everyone's a fan of Melbourne Storm. They're just the way they get excellence out of themselves every single week, and they just don't seem to waver. They don't have a bad day. So, I think I look up to Craig Bellamy, and there's a few other coaches as well. But I think anywhere where you just get consistent excellence.
And we were talking, and both Janna and Andrew or Dawsey were talking about, growing up and coaches that may or may not have an influence on their career. Did you have anyone growing up that you can particularly remember as a coach, maybe in your junior years, or someone that influenced you?
Well, I think there was a few actually. I felt like I was pretty good at footy when I was younger, so I was quite natural at it, and I didn't have a father, so I didn't have my dad left before I was born, and I never met him till I was about 20. So I seem to find father figures in most of the coaches really, because that's where I spent a lot of my time. So I've got to say, pretty much all my coaches played big parts of my life, and I'm very grateful for that.
Dawsey, did you want to tell Freddie who you support, or do you want to sort of brush over that?
Oh, no, always a proud Manly man, mate. No?
There we go. It's out there now.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, I live in Terry Hill, so...
Yeah, well, I'm about one of two Manly fans in Newcastle, I think. Not many of us up here.
Well, they're doing a good job at the moment. Tom Trebojevic is... the way he's seeing the game at the moment is incredible.
Yeah, he's good to watch.
He certainly is. Hey, so just interested then, we were just talking about superstars, Freddie, and Dawsey coached Kurt Fernley and Louis Savage, and then Janna, you were talking about some of the great players that you've played alongside with as well. Freddie, have you did you always want to be a coach then, in terms of your thinking, or at what point in your career or after your career did you decide that coaching was your go?
Well, I had no intention to do much when I retired. I was building a house at the time, and I think what had happened was they sacked the Roosters coach, Ricky Stewart, and the coach they got was Chris Anderson, and I was doing some commercial work with the Roosters, and they asked me if I'd go down and do some assisting, and I've got to say when I look at what the assistants do these days, I wasn't doing a very good job. But Chris Anderson had a health problem, so I just was given the job because there was eight rounds to go in the season, and I won the first 5. So that was I think my second game was Melbourne Storm, who I think went on to win the Comp that year. So they just said, well, do you want the job? And I go, well, let's go. Let's give it a crack. But I was always going to do, I think, something in rugby league. I've pretty much played rugby league since I was 3, and it's just been a huge part of my life. So whether it was coaching or commentary or whatever it was going to be, I always felt rugby league was going to be somewhere. And the coaching, I really enjoyed it. It's very intense, and when you don't have the ability to have that big a say in actually what goes out on the field, it's a totally different sensation, I feel, but one that's as as gratifying or better than actually being a player.
Mm. Hey, I'm interested in the future. We got a great question there earlier from someone talking about the Brisbane Olympics and Paralympics, and the announcement during the week is excellent. Janna, do you have anyone that we should be thinking about for Brisbane 2032? Anyone coming through the squad that we won't see in Tokyo, but maybe a name we could jot down in our little black book in terms of wheelchair basketball?
I think so, yeah. Being with under 25s, that's going to be a few of them. I say Victoria Simpson being in New South Wales. I think I'm really excited to see how she'll come about in the time. Watch out for her.
Right. We'll jot her down. Dawesy, what about you?
What
obviously. Sorry, Freddie.
What event is she in?
Wheelchair basketball.
Might even be her birthday today. I have a feeling. I'll look into that. It is, of course, the birthday of Richard Corjukes, who's one of our wonderful life members at Wheelchair Sports, and he may have even accosted you at our annual lunch a couple of years ago, Freddie. I don't know if you remember that, but one of the great characters, a Paralympian, and just a much-loved member of our community. So if Richard's watching on, and he often is, our very best wishes to you, mate, for your birthday. To Richard Corjukes. Dawesy, who in the wheelchair track and road space, your sport, who should we look out for in Brisbane in 2032, do you think?
There's a few coming through, but I think, the important thing is for, if there's kids out there listening to this in chairs, just to watch the games coming up, because I know of so many of my athletes, even Louise Savage, I remember she said she watched the games in like 88 or something, and that inspired her to get involved in the sport. Christy, my wife, watched the games in 92, and that inspired her. So, we've got some young kids coming through, but it's still, still 11 years away. So that, some kids that represent us in that time may not even taken up the sport yet. So it just provides an awesome opportunity. And the reason I got involved in coaching was because of the Sydney Games. That's when they started employing Paralympic coaches, and that was my first job. So it just provides such a big opportunity, not just to able-bodied sport, but also, Paralympic sport. It's just a massive boost.
Yeah, indeed. It's well said, isn't it? Because Kurt Fernley often talks about how the GIO Ausday 10K, a wheelchair race on Australia Day, lit the fire in him to pursue his sport. So these opportunities, and they only come around every 4 years, or in this case 5 years, they're so rare and important we take advantage of them. Freddie, anyone that it's in your little black book for the future in NRL, perhaps names we haven't seen? You have done some coaching in the juniors in previous years, but anyone we should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, leading up to when I coached State of Origin in 2018, I did the under-16s and under-18s for New South Wales for 3 years. And so a lot of the players in the team now are actually part of those squads and those junior New South Wales teams. So, and I think, a lot of the faith and trust I had with them is started as kids. And, everything that I do as a coach is just build on the basics. And I really encourage doing the basics very well. And when I see a lot of those kids, the Cam Murrays, Nathan Clearys, Nick Kotrick, Latrell, I think there was about 6 or 7 I counted this year that were in the team, but I get a really good vibe off players at how much they focus at doing the basics, whether they see them as important. And I find that anyone that can find basics important ends up being a really good player in any sport. So, as in kids coming through, I've got to say there's a kid for Canterbury, a centre, who's not old enough to play. I don't know his name because I haven't had much of a chance to watch those grades because they didn't actually play that much of a season this year. But Joseph Sawali, the kid who plays for the Roosters, he's 17, and he's a really good athlete. I think he pretty much played for Australia in Union League, basketball, number of sports. So he's quite a gifted athlete. But I've lost a bit of track actually. I love doing those other jobs and watching those kids come through. And I think COVID's played up the last couple of years, but I keep intending to have more camps because it's been so successful for me.
And one question we missed earlier, Freddie, for you was, would you want to have been coached by yourself? How would you have gone under your coaching style these days?
I think I needed someone to yell at me more. I always found I was better when people were threatening me.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of pretty relaxed. The one thing I do a lot with the players is a lot of visualizing and a lot of just off the cuff sort of stuff, which science has proven that it works, and I believe in it. And I really enjoyed that part when I played, just sitting down and visualizing and going through that mental process. And I would have loved that part of what I do at the moment, but I would have liked myself to be harder. I'm not that much of a yeller. I always thought I reacted. I'm not sure why, the way I was brought up or whatever it was, but maybe my mum yelling, that was the only thing that got a boost in me. So I needed someone to yell at me more.
There you go. Interesting, Janna. Earlier, you were saying juxtaposed for you. You're I guess, a more analytical coach and player, and the yelling wouldn't have worked for you.
Correct. Yeah. I guess, and I think as a coach, it's really trying to find out what our athlete needs and to adapt to that so that we can get the best out of our athletes, even if it makes us uncomfortable. It's really trying to unlock that. What's the key so we can unlock our athletes is the challenge, and that's what I think. Freddie has mentioned that it's a different high from a coach because there's so much more that you have to think about finding success on, the whole bench, 15, and then it's the reserves that you're finding, that key. What is that key, even if it doesn't fit what you want to do?
Yeah, nice. And just before you finish, Dawes, you've seen now Louise Savage, both because she was your, in your team and you coached her, but now you've seen her as a coach. What's Louise like as a coach? Did she go the way you expected her to, or has she surprised you as a coach?
A bit of both. She's just such a passionate person. Like, if she sets her mind to something, we saw in her athletic career that she's going to achieve it. So when she decided to be a coach, she probably started a coaching career just based on that passion and that will to win and thrive. But over the years, she's really developed in the other areas of, programming and using a support service teams and sports science sort of thing. So, she's just a driven person that's going to succeed in whatever she puts her mind to. And it's, you don't want to get on the wrong side of Lou, I can tell you.
Yeah, she's a warrior in every aspect, and the way that she brings these juniors through her wheelchair track and row program is extraordinary to see. And we're very lucky to have her. She's the most participatory patron I think I've ever seen. So aren't we blessed? Guys, we've run out of time for Rolling Conversations, but I wanted to say thank you, first of all, Janna, and wish your gliders all the best over in Tokyo. We'll be fingers crossed for them, and we hope they go really well.
Thank you. And thanks for having us on.
And Dawsey, to you, mate, and your...
About the 20th of August right now with these lockdowns. So the games start about 27th is opening ceremonies. No, 23rd, right in there. But we leave the 20th of August.
Yeah.
Good luck.
So, Freddie, Janna's the assistant coach of the Gliders, which is the women's wheelchair basketball, and her husband, Grant, is the assistant coach of the Rollers. So I don't know if it's true, but whoever loses does the washing up for a month. Dawsey, you've got
who tells who what to do at home?
This is. Does he want me to answer that or not? Not
sure. Freddie already knows the answer, doesn't he? We're all married.
Yeah.
Dawsey, to Christy in her 7th Paralympics, your wife, and to the other, to Reed and to Luke and to everyone that's going, best of luck to them as well. And you'll be over there, and we just say fingers crossed for your superstars. It'll be a great games.
Thanks, Mick. Appreciate it, and we'll do our best.
Yeah. And Freddie, congratulations on the series win this year. Wonderful to see the Blues on top again. And thanks for being a part of our community again. It's great to see you. You joined us a couple of years ago through John McLean at our annual lunch, and our community loves hearing from you. So thanks for being a part of Rolling Conversations Coaching Special.
Thank you. I'm still in touch with John McLean, and at the end of the year, we're going around doing a leadership course around New South Wales at some of the universities and speaking to young kids. So me and him since we met, it's got to be 20, 30 years ago now, we've remained very close, and he always keeps me in contact with what's happening in the wheelchair world. So you're very inspirational. You do a fantastic job. So everyone will be cheering for you when you go over to Tokyo. And I think anytime we see anyone in a wheelchair out there striving, it just gives everyone a boost.
Yeah, thanks, Freddie. Well, John's a superstar of wheelchair sport and a much-loved member of our community. So thanks for being with us. The coaching special has been fantastic. We hope everyone online has really enjoyed it. Stay safe this week, and we'll see you next week for Rolling Conversations. See you later, everyone.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks.
See you guys.